In this video, I'm going to be looking at cut content from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Most of the things I'm about to mention in this video were in the beta, but were removed for whatever reason, and some are just ideas that were never really implemented into the game fully. If that sounds interesting at all to you, please stick around and let me know in the comments which of these that you would have actually liked to see added in the final version of Vice City. Thank you for clicking on this video, I hope you enjoy it, and let's get into it. Firstly, let's look at our protagonist Tommy. This first one doesn't technically count as a scrapped outfit, but Tommy's original look was slightly darker than what we got in the final game. His facial features were also slightly different. As we can see, there's a pretty clear difference between this, and especially this.
Is that? Oh shit!
It's theorized that Tommy from the original version of the game was meant to look more like Tony Montana, the protagonist of Scarface, which for those who don't know, Vice City is heavily based off of that movie. Tommy was one of the least changed parts of the game, however, they sort of had his idea and his look down from the beginning. They just made slight alterations, but now let's look at some removed features from the actual map. I have a question for you. Have you ever been playing Vice City, just driving around, and then you sort of think to yourself, there's not much that I can do, like there's not many interiors that I can go and visit, at least in comparison to San Andreas, where you can go and play pool or basically do anything. That's just one of the small activities, but in Vice City we don't really have that option. There's not really that many places that we can go to, but one that was meant to be in the game, and you can actually still mod this, is that you can actually do betting. Now the interior for this was used in San Andreas, so the betting concept in GTA actually originated in Vice City, but they never implemented it, strangely enough. Apartment 3C, which I covered in my most recent video, please check it out if you haven't, actually has some removed content as well. This initially was meant to be the location of a mission from Sonny Forelli given to Tommy. By completing the mission, you would unlock this apartment as a safe house, which is a pretty cool idea, but it's a very small area as we know, so it likely wouldn't really be worth it, like as a safe house at all. It also probably wouldn't be worth the money, and I think it was better left as just a cool little Easter egg, bit of a dark secret for players to find. I think it would only be worth it as a safe house if the interior was expanded, and that wouldn't really make sense story-wise, so it's probably better that they left it how it is. A very small one that I want to mention is that police cars initially weren't green and white. They were actually white as the main color with red and blue stripes going across it. As far as I could find, there isn't really a reason for this, but I think that the green and white fits the world more, and it just makes the cars stand out a little bit more, so I feel like that's probably why they made the decision. As I'm sure you'd expect, some weapons were removed from Vice City, but what's strange is that a lot of them actually have models, meaning that they can be used, but likely just don't function how they should, or Rockstar just didn't have time to implement them properly into the final game. One example is the grenade launcher, a weapon that I feel would have been very fun to use in Vice City. Based on the model that we can see, hopefully I'll put it up on screen here, we can see that it looks pretty unfinished. It looks a bit messy and, as I said, just pretty unfinished, therefore meaning it likely just didn't work how the devs intended it to, and they ran out of time and just didn't put it in the game. Another missing weapon is the AK-47. The model looks similar to the one from GTA 3, so maybe they just took it from that game and again maybe ran out of time. There was one weapon plan that I think actually would have been super interesting to see for the first time in a GTA game, that being landmines. Turns out they actually were coded into the game, but they were just never added. Which is pretty weird, because why would you put the effort into a feature but not actually add it into the game? Well, ultimately, it's likely that they designed this later on in the game's development. Most weapons in the game serve a purpose. Almost every weapon that we can find in the game is used in at least one mission. But if these were made later, they likely felt like it was unnecessary to add them because they didn't suit an existing mission. And of course, they're not going to add in a couple more missions just to, include a new weapon. So obviously that's just speculation, that isn't at all confirmed, but that's just sort of my take on that idea. This is definitely annoying because landmines really would have been helpful in some of the more irritating missions of this game. Before we head into the last part of the video, if you are enjoying, please leave a like and subscribe. It actually really helps me out a ton. And if you are enjoying so far, let me know in the comments, if you could add one thing into Vice City, what would it be? Alright everyone, let's get back to the video. So crazily enough, everything that we've covered so far are just small amounts of things removed from this game. The next one is pretty huge though, at least I feel, that's why I've saved it for last. The shape of the map has changed a lot since early development. We don't really know what caused the shape of the map to change like it did, but some changes are pretty clear to see. So One way to actually tell this is if you come over to the Sunshine Autos place on the map, which you might own if you have the asset, and look at this map, because it's actually the original beta map, not the current map that we have in the final game. So for example here, we can see that there were actually originally fewer bridges connecting the two main islands together. More notably though, the stadium at the top left of the map was completely missing, making it fair to assume it was likely added later in development. It could also explain its weird placement on the map. It sticks out in a very strange way and definitely sort of looks like a later addition for sure. In 2002, the game probably seemed pretty big, but in 2024 the map is tiny, especially when you compare it to GTA 5's map. Well, it could have actually been a little bigger, as they plan to add an adaptation of the real-life Florida Keys called the Gator Keys. We know this was planned but scrapped. There were removed voice lines within the game that involved Tommy being sent on a mission to the Keys, but as mentioned, this was removed, likely because of the time span they had to work on the game. GTA 3 released in October of 2001, and Vice City was released in October of 2002, so barely a year later. It is very likely that if they were given at least like half a year or even more time to work on this game, we would have received a lot of the missing details that I mentioned in this video. Thank you all for watching, especially if you watched all the way until the end. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing and liking the video if you did enjoy it. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you next time.